I spent $280,000 building my parents a home by the river. I never told my brother for days after the surprise reveal. He and his wife were already on the dock photographing it for a rental listing. I'm a real estate attorney. That was their first mistake. My name is Jordan. I'm 29. I work in real estate law, which means I spend my days making sure that what people intend and what they sign actually match. Most of the time, they don't. I learned that lesson early, watching someone I love lose something they should have been able to keep. And I decided I would spend my professional life making sure the language was always tight enough to hold. My mother was diagnosed with MS when I was 21. My father became her person almost immediately. He retired 2 years early, restructured everything, quietly folded his own plans away like something he no longer needed. He drove her to every infusion appointment. He learned her medication schedule the way musicians learn scales, by repetition, by necessity, until it became automatic. He never complained. He never asked for anything in return. That was simply who he was. For 7 years, I watched them shrink their world to manage her condition. The travel they had always talked about. The lake house they had mentioned since I was a child. The slow retirement they had imagined somewhere quiet, with water nearby and nothing urgent. All of it quietly deferred, then quietly abandoned. So I started saving. Not dramatically, just consistently. Every year, a percentage of every paycheck went into an account I didn't touch. When I found the property 3 years ago, a half-acre lot on a calm river bend 2 hours from the city, with an old structure the listing called a fixer-upper opportunity, I recognized it immediately for what it actually was. The bones were good. The water was right. There was a porch facing east where my father could have his coffee and watch the morning come in without a single obligation attached to it. I bought it. Then I did what I do. I drafted the project scope, hired a contractor I trusted, pulled every permit myself, and built something designed around my parents specifically. Single story, wide doorways, a bathroom with support fixtures that looked like design choices rather than medical accommodations, a kitchen laid out for my mother's easier days and her harder ones both, a porch long enough to always offer a shaded corner and a sunny one, because her sensitivity to heat had changed over the years and she needed options. I did not tell my brother. That also requires explanation. Marcus is 5 years older than me. He is not a bad person in any dramatic sense. He is the quieter kind of problem. The kind that accumulates slowly over years until you realize you've been managing the fallout of his choices for a decade and nobody officially acknowledged that anything was wrong. When my mother was first diagnosed, Marcus was present for about 2 months. He came to appointments. He researched treatment options with genuine intensity. He told extended family members about her condition with such detailed gravity that people started calling him for updates instead of her, which she never said bothered her, but I noticed. Then he met Diane. Diane is precise in the way that certain people are precise, not out of care, but out of calculation. She has an answer for everything and a plan behind every answer. In 8 years of marriage to my brother, I have never once seen her do something that didn't serve an angle she had already identified. Marcus, who has always needed someone to orbit, found in her a very strong gravitational center. Together, they moved through situations the way water moves through low ground, efficiently and always in the direction of accumulation. I didn't tell them about the property because I didn't want it to become a conversation. I didn't want Diane walking the lot before the foundation was poured. I didn't want Marcus's good intentions turned into shared ownership of something that was never meant to be shared. I had watched them do it before with my grandmother's jewelry after she passed, with the family car, with a small inheritance that had been clearly designated and somehow ended up in a gray area that took 2 years to resolve. I was not going to let it happen here. I financed everything myself. The land, the construction, the furnishings, a small dock, and a prepaid maintenance account set up to cover the first decade of property taxes and upkeep. The total was close to $280,000. When the build was finished and the porch light was working and the river was doing exactly what I had imagined it would do in that light, I placed the deed into an irrevocable trust with my parents as sole lifetime beneficiaries. I was named trustee. The language was specific. Exclusive personal occupancy. No subletting. No commercial use. No transfer without trustee consent. Then I arranged the surprise. Asterisk. I told my parents I was taking them to dinner for their anniversary. I drove them 2 hours through a late September light and turned onto a gravel road they had never seen. And when I stopped in front of a porch light glowing against the darkening tree line, my mother turned to look at me and couldn't find words for a long moment. My father got out of the car and stood very still in the driveway. Is this real? My mother finally said, "Both your names are in the trust." I told her, "Nobody can sell it. Nobody can take it. It's yours for as long as you want it." My father walked to the porch railing and looked at the water without speaking for several minutes. When he finally turned around, his face had something in it I hadn't seen in years. Not happiness exactly. Something older than happiness. Relief. I should have known not to feel too settled. My mother, who glows when she's happy and cannot contain it, mentioned the property to Marcus during a phone call 4 days later. She was probably incandescent through the receiver. He asked for the address. She called me that evening with a voice carefully balanced between neutral and apologetic. "Marcus wants to bring Diane up this weekend just to see it. Is that okay?" "It's your house," I told her. "You decide who visits," she said, "of course." And then paused in the way that meant she already felt something moving in the wrong direction. I had a closing on Friday and a title dispute I couldn't walk away from on Saturday. I told myself it was just a visit. I told myself my brother was not Diane. I told myself I had built the legal structure carefully and it would hold. I told myself to stop treating every situation like a contract about to fail. My father's message arrived Wednesday morning. "Please come. Diane has been talking about the property in ways I don't understand. Marcus says we should discuss it as a family." I don't know what that means, neither did I, but I knew enough. Their cars were in the driveway when I arrived. Marcus's sedan and Diane's newer SUV, parked with the comfortable permanence of people who had arrived early and settled in. I could see Diane on the dock with her phone out, photographing the river in both directions. My mother was standing at the kitchen window with the expression she wore when she was holding too many things at once. My father was at the kitchen table. In front of him was a folder I didn't recognize. Marcus was on the couch with his laptop open. Diane came in through the back door just behind me, shaking something off her shoes as though she owned the floor she was stepping onto. "We just want to talk through some options," she said before I had set my bag down. "The property has a lot of potential." Marcus found a property management company that handles vacation rentals in this region. The numbers are actually really strong for a river property. Summer weekends alone could generate $40,000 a season. Your parents would still use it whenever it's not booked. I looked at my father. His jaw was set in the way that meant he was working hard to stay quiet. "I never agreed to discuss this," he said. "I was told we were having a family conversation. That was not what was presented to me." "He's protective," Diane said, which is understandable. But we're just looking at the full picture. Marcus had opened a spreadsheet on his laptop. He turned it toward me with the expression of someone who believes numbers and arguments. Asterisk. I let him show me for a moment. Then I went to my car and retrieved my bag. Asterisk. I have a professional habit that certain people in my life call excessive and that I call accurate. Every property transaction I manage, personal or otherwise, receives the same documentation treatment. Filed, time-stamped, cross-referenced, accessible. I had brought the full file. Asterisk. I placed the deed on the table. Recorded with the county 11 months ago. Irrevocable trust. Sole lifetime beneficiaries being the 2 people currently seated at this table. The trust instrument specifies exclusive personal occupancy with no provision for subletting, short-term rental, or commercial use of any kind without written trustee consent. Asterisk. Diane looked at it. And you're the trustee. Asterisk, I'm the trustee. My obligation is to enforce the terms that protect them, not to generate income for a management company contact. Asterisk, trust instruments can be contested. Asterisk, I placed the second document beside the first. A written legal opinion from a property attorney in this county confirming the trust is validly formed, properly recorded, and not subject to challenge by non-beneficiaries. Non-beneficiaries means everyone in this room except my parents. Asterisk, the kitchen was very still. Asterisk, I want to address the inquiry you've already made. I said. I had found it the previous evening. A preliminary inquiry submitted to a vacation rental platform under Diane's name, using the property address and to photographs taken from the dock. I placed the screenshot on the table. This was submitted without owner consent, without trustee consent, and without a special use permit, which this township requires for all short-term rental operations. There is no permit on file for this address. Asterisk, I placed the township ordinance next. Violations carry fines of up to $6,000 per occurrence, plus a mandatory review period during which no rentals are permitted. I submitted a fraud report to the platform this morning. The listing will be removed within 24 hours. Asterisk, Anness, I said, placing the final document in front of them, is a cease and desist addressed to both of you. Any further attempt to list, lease, photograph for commercial purposes, or misrepresent this property as available for any use beyond my parents' private occupancy will be treated as tortious interference with the trust. My firm's senior partner is copied and expects my call this afternoon. Asterisk, Marcus stared at the page, then at me. You did all of this to control them, he said. That's what this is. You built this place so you'd have leverage over everyone. Asterisk, I looked at him for a moment. Asterisk, I built this place. I said, because our father retired early and rearranged his entire life and never once complained about it. I built it because our mother had a list of places she wanted to go someday that she put away when her diagnosis changed the word someday into something else. I built it because they earn somewhere that is completely and permanently theirs, not an income stream, not your next project. Asterisk, I need you both to leave now, I said. You're welcome back when my parents invite you. Asterisk, what followed was not clean. Marcus made phone calls in the driveway. Diane sat in their car for 20 minutes before it finally pulled out. My mother made tea. We sat at the kitchen table while the light moved across the river and said very little. Asterisk, he told me later that Diane had walked the entire property the day they arrived, had asked about the well capacity, had asked whether the dock had been permitted, had asked about internet speed for remote work. Asterisk, I thought she was just curious, my mother said. She looked at her hands around the mug. I should have called you sooner. Asterisk, my father came in from the porch and stood in the doorway. She asked me about converting the screened area into a rental office, he said. I told her it wasn't my decision. She told me I should think about the bigger picture. Asterisk, he paused. Asterisk, I've been thinking about the bigger picture for 20 years, he said. I just want to sit on my porch. Asterisk, a month later, on a Sunday with no emergency and no task. I drove up with groceries and coffee and no particular reason except that I wanted to. Asterisk, my mother was reading on the porch. My father was at the dock, moving at his own pace, watching the river do what rivers do in the late afternoon light. When I came up the path, he looked over and smiled the way he used to before everything got heavy. Asterisk, you know what I've been thinking about, he said. Asterisk, what? Asterisk, how long I spent making sure I wasn't asking for too much. He was quiet for a moment. I never thought I was allowed to just say, this is mine. Nobody touches this. Asterisk, you're allowed, I said. Asterisk, he nodded once and turned back to the water. Asterisk, I know that now. Asterisk.